Hi there, I'm Barb, and this is my very first FlossTube video. Today I wanted to share with you a really fun project that I've been working on, and it's a free pattern available online. Now I found it on Pinterest, and I've had it pinned for quite a while. And as you probably know, it's a lot easier to pin things than it is to do them. Well, I fell in love with this pattern because I love fall, and I thought I am going to make this someday, and I finally decided to give it a try. And I wanted to share with you some of the things that I did right and some of the things that I did wrong, and give some of you who might just be starting out with cross stitch some encouragement. So the first thing I did after finding the pattern, I downloaded it from a girl's website, and I'll put a link down below to that. And I transferred it to my desktop, and then I put it in a document, and instead of printing it on my own computer, what I ended up doing was sending it out to be printed at FedEx. We have a place here called FedEx Kinko's. I'm sure there's a lot of different places that do that. And I was really happy with this because I don't like spending money for ink. And oftentimes it doesn't print, colored ink, and oftentimes it doesn't print very well anyway. And I wanted a really good copy to be able to follow along with this pattern. And what I really like about sending this out rather than following online is that you do have it in a very large form and you don't lose your place as much. So this is the actual copy that I got from FedEx. And it is really good in terms of the color quality. It doesn't have like lines in it like you might have if you printed it out at home. It's also on a fairly heavy glossy sheet of paper, which I love. And I've been picking it up and putting it down many times while I was working on my project, and it's still in really good shape. And I don't think anything I printed at home would do quite as well as that. So that's my first tip, is to have it professionally printed. You can do it online, and I did actually, this was my first project getting back into cross stitch. This was another freebie from Lizzie Kate, and it didn't have the border around it, but when I bought this plaque to mount it, I realized that it had a little extra space at the top and the bottom, and I wanted to make it look like it belonged with the plaque. So I created this little border around it, which was just a checkerboard. It's really easy to do. I'll also put the Lizzie Kate link down below too. But for this, I didn't have it printed because it was really easy to follow along. Sometimes on my iPad, I would actually do a screenshot and then use the markup feature and kind of mark the lines as I was going along. So that's one way you could do it. But with a pattern this big, I wanted something that I could hold onto, and if I needed to, write on, which I haven't had to do. I wanted to share with you this because honestly, I was very intimidated when I first started this. I loved it. It's been on my Pinterest board for years, and I'm like, I really want to do this. Then when I finally got the thread and the cloth and everything, and I started to do it, I thought, I can't do this. This is really hard. And I was especially intimidated by the sunflower here, because I'm really good at going back and forth, doing houses, doing things that are square and easy to count. But this sunflower really had me intimidated. But I wanted to share with you some encouragement and some things that I did to really help me with this. So the first thing I did with this is I did the borders in the green. And that was super easy. The one thing I can share with you is to count twice, sometimes count 3 times, and then double check your counting, because I can't tell you how many times that I got off. But once I had the border, the green border going around it, the bottom part was pretty easy, the autumn. But this, like I said, was really intimidating, and I wanted to share with you what I did to make it less intimidating. The first thing I did was I did the crow, and that was sort of like my point of reference for doing everything else. And then I started with what I considered the most difficult, was the yellow, and I went around and did the yellow. Now, instead of going back and forth, which I know a lot of stitchers do, I sort of did it in sections. I would do this petal, then this cluster, and this cluster. And as I was doing it, I would always check myself. Okay, this row goes down and it's like at the top of his tail. And like this row met up with his eye. And I would check it that way so many times. I also put the stem in here and I would check it that way too. And as I got up around here, that's when I put in this center point and I would count out from there. So with just about each row and each cluster that I did, I would always double check it. Now, sometimes you can do it fairly easily with a ruler or simply by pulling your thread down or over. And a lot of times it's just counting. And I can't tell you how careful I was, but how many times I miscounted. Even by one will get you so far off. And I think I could have pulled it off if I had gotten off track with this flower, but I really wanted to jump back into cross stitching and I wanted to do it right. And so I was really happy that I was able to do the flower. Now this isn't complete. I will complete it this weekend and then I'll come back and show you the finished product, but I just wanted to share with you what I have done so far. So I also wanted to tell you that I did change some of the colors. I loved the look of this, but after I pulled the colors of floss from the store, I realized that they were a lot lighter. They were almost springtimey looking, and that wasn't the look that I was going for. So I bought some different colors, and I'm glad I did, but I did something wrong too, and I'd like to share that. This orange, and I hope this comes out well on the camera, it's a pretty bright orange, and this was the darker of the two oranges. And then there was one that was lighter that was almost a peach color, and I thought, I want something autumn that's very, looks like fall leaves. So I made this the lighter orange, and I chose this for the darker orange. And I was glad that I did that because it really makes the word autumn stand out a lot more. But after I did that substitution, I kind of regretted not making this lighter orange a little bit more subdued, because to me it seems a little neonish almost. So I don't think it's so bad that I have to pull it out, and I'm afraid that if I did pull it out at this point, I probably would give up on the project. So I don't want to do that. I want to keep going, and I'm probably the only one who would notice it, but I would have chosen a different orange. So I guess that's another tip that I have, is to, if you do make color substitutions, really kind of line them up and think about them before you start stitching. I also had a little bit of a problem with the green. This green, which to me is like a medium, almost a light leaf green, there again, that was the darker green, and I like strong, bold colors. So I chose, after doing the edge is when I realized, see, I did the entire edge and I wasn't about to rip that out. So I thought, well, I'll just make this, we'll leave this that color, but I'll choose a darker color to go with the leaves. And so I chose this color, and on camera they look pretty different. One looks considerably lighter than the other, but when I did the leaves, and I'll turn this upside down, these leaves over here, I didn't think that the colors looked that much different, and I was disappointed in that. So I don't know how I would remedy that the next time. Maybe I would try stitching them in a little sample pattern together side by side so I can see exactly how they're going to look before I combine them and started work on the project, because again, I don't want to tear out any more than I have to. So those are my tips. I did want to say that I used just regular Aida cloth that I got at Michael's, I think, or Joann's. It's 14 count, and it's an off-white, and it has sort of like a speckle tone to it, and I really like that. It was fairly inexpensive, and my colors are DMC. Let's see. So that's where I'm at right now. I just wanted to share this with you because I do feel very accomplished to have gotten this far. It's been about 25 years since I was cross-stitching on a regular basis. I used to cross-stitch all the time when I was young and loved it. And then I got into scrapbooking and card making and crocheting, and I still love those things, but I really miss cross-stitching, and I'm happy to be back into doing that. So I just wanted to share this with you, and if you are a new stitcher or a stitcher who does get intimidated by patterns like this, I just wanted to encourage you to just double check and triple check your work, have something to go on to make sure that your measurements are correct, and give it a try. I thought that this sunflower would take a really long time, and it really took just part of 2 days. And today I'm going to be able to just fill it in while I'm watching TV with my husband, so that'll be fun. And I will be back to show you at least the finished product of this. I'm not sure how I'm going to frame it. It actually comes out to 6 1/4 by 6 roughly, and I don't know if I'm going to custom frame it because it's not a square space, or if I'm going to just buy like a 6 by 6 frame and see how that goes. But I'll show you as close to the finished product as possible. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I would love to hear any comments that you have, and I'd love to just to get to know other stitchers out there. So thanks so much and have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Okay, so I am back and I have completed my autumn cross stitch, and I really like how it looks. I was going to frame it, and I went up to Joann's or Michael's, I think it was Michael's, and they quoted me about $35 just for the frame, not for them doing it, because I have the materials that I can do it. But I thought that was a bit much. I'm not sure I like the piece that much, but I did want to put it on something so that I could enjoy it during the fall time. So what I decided to do was to go to the thrift store and see what I could find. First of all, I wanted to say that it isn't exactly square. It's like 1/4 of an inch off. I think it's 1/4 of an inch wider than tall. So I looked at ready-made frames, and some of them would have been okay, but they were still about $10 and they were just okay. So I thought, what else could I do? So I went up to my thrift store and I found this piece. And it is from Hobby Lobby, I think. And it was just laying there for $1.99, and I got it for half price. So it is a square, so it's not going to sit exactly perfectly on there, but I thought that I would use some ribbon at the top, or I've seen some people do it over to the side, to try to make it look not as obvious that it's not square. So I thought that I would go ahead and get this, and I'm going to try. This is like in real time. I don't know if this is actually going to work, but I'm going to try to get these pieces off, and then I'm going to paint it and sand it a little, and then I'll show you how I'm going to finish my piece. I'm actually going to cut it and then fray the edges, so it has a little bit like a scarecrow haystack kind of look to it. Oh, this was super easy to get off, and I will use that key in something else. I think that's really cute. Now this part, and I did have some sandpaper here to sand that down. And that one there. There we go. Now this, I'm hoping, is going to come off. I would normally not use a butter knife, but we are in the middle of Hurricane Ian. Thankfully, I am about 2 hours north of where Ian is expected to come in. And my car is in the garage and I can't get anything else in the garage. So I'm going to have to use, whoops, what I have. You definitely want to be wearing glasses or something, but this is actually coming up pretty easily. A lot easier than I thought. Whoop. So we'll see what that's like. I might even save these. Aren't those cute? If I can find all 4 of them. One went flying somewhere that I can't locate. But I might use those again for something else. So that's off. And I guess that was glued there as well. But that's not going to impact what I'm going to do. So I've got that. And I have an old container actually of Dixie Belle paint. I don't think you'd have to use Dixie Belle paint. And let me just get something to stir this with. Because all I need is a little bit. This is really goopy, but it's what I have today and there's no getting out. So I'm just going to go with it. Normally Dixie Belle paint is pretty goopy for those of you who use it, but this might be a bit much. There we go. And again, just like the piece that was on here, it's only going to go not even to the edges. I kind of like that. But I am going to go back and sand it. So I'm just going to do around the edges because I'm not going to need to worry about it being done in the middle. In fact, I'll probably use that open space right there to help adhere my work to this board. Okay. So hopefully, wherever you are, the weather is nice. We're used to hurricanes here in Florida to a certain extent, but every time they come, it's just never good. It's never a peaceful time. I live about 6 miles from the water, the Gulf of Mexico, and earlier this week it was scheduled to come in at Madeira Beach, which is the closest beach to me, at like 120 miles an hour, and I was scared to death. And I'm thinking real seriously how I'd like to live in North Carolina, maybe northern Georgia. And I think after this, it's going to be time. The older you get, the harder it is to deal with that. So I guess that's a discussion for another day. But anyway, I was able to do it fairly well. I got a little bit on the sides there, but I think that's okay. I'm not going to bother with the sides because I think that the color of the Aida cloth will match that and look good. The bottom here, I got a little bit more on. So I think I'm just going to take that and go like that. You know what I think I might even do? Doesn't that look cool? I'm just going to put a little bit of black around there to give it more of a rustic look. And this paint is almost dry anyway, so the cleanup should be pretty easy. It shouldn't be super sticky on my table. You can see how right there it's already sanded, and I'm going to hopefully copy that effect a little bit on the sides to give it more of a rustic look. So I'm going to set that aside and let it dry. And I'm going to clean up my paint, and then I'll be back to show you how I'm going to finish my stitching and attach it to this. Okay, I'll be back soon. Okay, I'm back now, and while I was off camera, I decided that I wanted to paint the sides black. Since I was going to sand it, I thought it would give it too much of a mishmashed kind of look if this was sanded black and then this was white with black on it. So I think one or the other would have been good. So I did that, and the first thing that I'm going to do is, well, I'll show you this, because right now my sandpaper escapes me. I took my design And I sort of, when it was full of fabric, I wrapped it around and I sort of counted how many lines of Aida I wanted to leave on there. And I decided on 6. And like I said, there's a little bit more space at the top than there are on the sides. But with the ribbon, I think it's going to look good. So what I did is I decided I'm going to cut 6 lines away, and I did that all the way around. And then, let me move this, I simply pulled these out. Now I have worked with other Aida cloth where this is really, really hard to pull these out. One of the things you can do is just do 1 or 2. You don't have to do a whole section of, like, I think there's like 5 in there. But if you do find that you are having difficulty pulling these all the way out, one thing you can do is get some really good scissors. These are for cutting paper, and they're just called like bee scissors, but something like that where you can get in there with a fine tip and you can just cut like right to there, for example, just a little bit. And that way you're only pulling out an inch or so and it doesn't get as tangled. And then you can do that all the way across. I didn't find that I needed to do that with this, but with another project, I actually gave up on doing it that way. So I wish I had thought about that earlier. So I'm just pulling these off. And if they give a little bit of resistance, I kind of like that because it makes it look a little bit more jagged on the edges, which is the look I was going for. So I am down to, I want to leave 2 rows all the way around. And try to grab that. There we go. So I'm down to 3 rows there. 1 more row, if I can pull that. Now it's starting to get a little hard. I think I'm going to come over here and just do 1 at a time at this point. Of course, on camera, it's going to give me a hard time. There we go. Okay. So I just did that all the way around, and I can see that I have 1 little thread running across here that needs to be pulled out too. So I'm just checking it. Okay. So I really like how that edge looks. It's really free, and that's a good thing. And let me go find my... So anyway, I'm gonna be right back and turn off the camera, but I'm gonna get my sandpaper. Okay, so I'm back with my sandpaper. It's just a very lightweight 150 regular sandpaper. And I'm just gonna very lightly do the edges, just to give it a little bit of a, hopefully that's not shaking the camera too much. I just want it to have a little bit more of a rustic look to it. And a little at the bottom. Now when you're doing this, you want to keep in mind how much is actually going to show. So I'm not going to really worry too much about making it sanded in the middle, because that really won't show that much. I'm just going to focus on the edges. And when you're painting and doing this, one thing you want to watch out for is that you have it going the correct way, if it matters. This has some sort of Velcro on it that, like I said, I got this at the thrift store and somebody probably had it attached to something. So I chose to use this as the bottom. But it would be just like me to, oops, you know what? I can see a little bit of that brown coming through there. So I'm not going to sand too much more, because it looks like the the wood or whatever it's made of. It looks like it's made of some sort of particle stuff. So I'm going to stop there, but it does have a little bit of a rough edge. But it would be like me to get it all on there and then have the hook to hang it be at the bottom instead of the top. So little things like that you have to watch out for. So I'm taking a damp cloth and just wiping the sawdust away. And I'm drying it so I can move right on. Can let it dry naturally, but I wanted to kind of do this and complete it. So there's my little rustic looking box. Now, I decided to, instead of have mounting board, I really want to get a light box. That's one thing that is missing from my collection as I get back into cross stitching. If I had a light box, I'd be able to like mount it exactly, because I don't want it to go over. I would want it to just be around this green here. So what I've decided to do for this project is use Zots. And if you're not familiar with Zots, they are available at Michael's and Joann's in the adhesive section. And they come in a lot of different sizes. This size is called minuscule, and that little pink dot right there indicates what the actual size is. I am going to be using the same brand, but I don't have a box for it. And I have Zots that are line Zots. And that's what I'm going to be putting around the edges here. So that way I'll have a more accurate placement of these without having a light box. So I'm just going to, I don't want to use my good scissors for this. I'm just going to put that there. Now this little piece is not going to be like a historic quality or a museum piece. It's just a little piece that, you know, I'll pull out for the holidays. And so I'm not going to worry about having it be preserved perfectly. My kids will probably just throw it out when I die anyway. But I did want to say that this is permanent and it is acid free and it's super duper sticky. So I think it'll do really well for this project. So I'm just going to kind of hold it up to the light here and see about where it is. In fact, I am going to cut right above where the Zot line is so that I can place it. And you can see how I've cut it. There and there is the beginning of the line. So I'm going to go in here and kind of lay it fairly close like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you definitely don't want to get it where the frayed edges are, because that could be really yucky and sticky. And to start it, it'll come off easily once it gets started. Let's see. You got to kind of hold it down. Starting. It's very sticky stuff. Maybe this works better on paper, huh? All right, I'm going to go to plan B. This is live. This is real. This is me making mistakes. Yeah. Okay, that's not going to work. Obviously, Zots don't work real well on fabric like they do on paper. I think if I could get it peeled off, it'd be okay, but I'm not going to mess with it. So back to the drawing board. I could do hot glue, but my fear with hot glue is that it's going to ooze through these little cracks, which wouldn't be terrible. Like I said, I'm not going to expect it to be in a museum someday, but yeah, I think I might just do either the hot glue, or I actually do not have access to my mounting board right now. I have access to the mounting board, but my razor blades that I cut it with are in the garage, and I can't get in my garage because the car's in there because the storm is here. Anyway, this is how it's going to be on. I will either hot glue it or use a mounting board. I think I might just hot glue it, but I wanted to show you how I'm going to make the ribbons. This is a bow board that I just made from some stuff and that I had laying around, an old piece of wood, you need a drill, and you need to pre-drill the holes, and then you need to go get like these big nails, and they have to be like kind of, they have to be kind of smooth because your ribbon's going to have to pull off on them. But you can make these. I believe that they sell them, but they're super easy to make too. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to do 2 different bows, and then I'm going to put one in front of the other. Now, you can use them that way, but you can also do this. So I'm going to actually make 2, and I tie them at the same time. Pull that down there. I'm going to, you wrap 2 strands of ribbon around like that, and then you cross it up, pull that down, and then wrap it around and pull it tight. And that is one bow. And I'm going to kind of separate it a little bit. Let's see. There we go. And you can just kind of tug on it a little to make it come apart so that you can tell that there's 2 of them there. That has a cute look. And I'm going to set that over there. And then this one, I don't know that I want it to be quite as long as that. I want it to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to use these 2 nails here. It's still a pretty big bow, but not as big as the black. And again, I'm going to do the same technique. And when you're using pattern ribbon, it's sometimes a little bit harder because you always want to be careful of the way you're pulling so that your pattern is always out. If it's ribbon that's the same on both sides, it's a lot easier, but it works. There. So there's that. Now, bringing this back here, because there is a little bit more room up there, that's why I decided to do the ribbon. And I could do it like over here. I mean, that might actually look cute because there's not that much difference in the edges. So I could do that over there. And again, what I could do with some of these very minuscule zots is I can put them on this so that they would stay in place, and then trim that. And then that could be done the same way. I would put that right over top of it. So, okay, well, I guess I need to figure out, I think I'm going to heat up the glue gun and just get started on that. And we'll see how that works. Okay, I am ready to finish this. And I've got my glue gun heated up. This is a well-loved glue gun, as you can see. And I'm going to put the glue, for starters, I'm going to try to get it just on the green, so it really won't be going through the little holes of the Aida cloth. I'm not going to do the whole thing for 2 reasons. First of all, then I'd have to center it perfectly, but the other reason is that it dries so quickly that I don't want it to be dry down here or up here before I even get it down there. So I'm just going to take this, tip that up. Whoa, 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 whoa. You don't want all that globby stuff on there. Okay. And I'm going to try to put a very light line of it going across here, but enough to where it will stick. Again, this is not going to be in a museum, you know, hundreds of years from now, so I'm not super concerned about that. I just want a little cute fall decoration for now. So I'm going to flip that over and be very careful to get that first part centered. There we go. Okay, so the top is good to go. And when I flip it over this way, I'm going to do a little here, a little here, a little here, and then the bottom. go like maybe halfway down there, halfway down there. Put that down. It's actually turning out a lot flatter than I thought it would, and I really like that too. Okay. Now I think here I'm going to try to go all the way around, and hopefully it will stay hot enough to where it will adhere well when I'm done. Okay. Perfect. Okay, I think that's really cute for a project that just sits out part of the year. I'm really happy with it. And, you know, like I said, it was just $1 to buy the block, and I had the paint and the sandpaper. And I think it turned out really well. I also had these ribbons, but even if I had to buy those, it wouldn't be too much. So now I'm trying to decide, do I want that up there? And I'm really not thinking that. I think it would, unless I took it totally off of there and almost had it sticking out of the top. But I'm still thinking that the ribbons would kind of dangle down in the middle. You know, or do I want it off to the side and using the Zots kind of put the ribbon going like that? Or do I want it like that? I didn't think this would take so long. I think I'm going to do it in the top and just let them hang over the stitch work. I think that when you look at it as a whole, people will be able to tell that it is what it is. And I'm not going to put it like here. I am going to put it a little bit up higher. And I think that'll be good for offsetting the fact that it's not totally square on there. So I'm going to put that sort of right there. And then this, I'm going to try to put it like almost right over top of it, maybe just a little bit below it. Kind of make it look like it was tied together. Okay. And I think that I'm going to let these guys go a little bit longer because they're thin. And I think I'm going to take these guys a little bit shorter. I hate to cut something if I'm not sure, but let's start with that. And then if I don't like it, I can take them shorter. So if I stand it up like that, I will post a picture of it. But as it's up like that, that's sort of what it looks like. So I will post a picture of it next to a pumpkin and make it look kind of cute. So that's my first fall cross stitch, well, my second one. So anyway, I hope you liked this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm kind of definitely new to FlossTube, somewhat new to YouTube. And so I would love it if you like my stuff, if you would subscribe. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.